Good morning. I'd like to welcome all of you, and I'd like to bring the August 21st, 2019 Planning Advisory Commission meeting to order. And it is 9 a.m. and we will begin. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. First of all, I'd like to ask you to silence your cell phones or turn them off, please. Avoid any interruptions. I'd like to remind those in the audience, those watching by television, that this is the first hearing of any rezoning, text change, or special exception request brought before us here today. We will first hear a reading of the staff report by the case from the planning staff, and I'll ask the applicant to provide a brief overview of the request. We will then give the opportunity for anyone in the audience to speak for or against that request to inquire about the said request. The commissioners will have time for any needed discussion on the cases. Once a motion is made, seconded by the commission, a vote will take place, a recommendation will be rendered. The case will go back to the planning department for their independent recommendation. If a favorable recommendation is given, then the case is forwarded to the City Council with the two independent recommendations. If the Planning Department makes a recommendation for denial, applicant will have 10 days from the receipt of a letter stating the denial to notify the Clerk of Council that they are requesting to be placed on City Council's agenda. City Council of Columbus will hold a public meeting, and it will be called the first reading. Said council shall consider the case, review PAC and Planning Department recommendations, and hear discussion on the matter. Council will then render a final decision at a second public meeting, which will be called the second reading. So, I hope everyone got a copy of the minutes by John Renfro prior. Did you all get a chance to take a look at those? Anybody see anything that needed to be changed from the minutes? Okay, well, we'll consider those accepted. All right, thank you very much. Well, we'll get started here. Our first cases, we have two special exceptions to begin. First special exception is REZN 0119046. This is a request for a special exception of 0.55 acres of land located at 710 Front Avenue. Current zoning is HIST, which is historic. The proposed use is health and wellness facility. Joanne Coggle is the applicant. This property is located in Council District 7, Woodson. And we'll hear from Mr. Johnson on the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. EXCP 01-19-0046. Joanne Coggle has submitted an application for a special exception use. The property is located in an HIST zoning district. The site for the proposed health and wellness facility is located at 710 Front Avenue. Purpose of the special exception use is to allow for the operation of a health and fitness facility at that location. Number one, access. Is or will the type of street providing access to the use be adequate to serve the proposed use? Front Avenue and 8th streets are local roads. They provide adequate free flow movement in this area. The uses for this property are office and health and fitness facility. Number two, traffic and pedestrian safety. Is or will access into and out of the property be adequate to provide for traffic and pedestrian safety, the anticipated volume of traffic flow and access by emergency vehicles? Access into and out of the property in question will provide for adequate traffic and pedestrian safety and emergency access. Adequacy of public facilities. Services such as water, utilities, police, and fire protection are adequate. Protection from adverse effects, such as refuse service, parking, and loading areas. The properties are surrounded by government, cultural, commercial, park, and residential uses. Parking, service, and refuse are adequate and provided as stated within the UDO. Noise, light, glare, and odor should be limited due to the nature of the location. A parking variance was granted to the River Valley Regional Commission for the entire building by BZA on August 7th, 2019. Parking is conforming. Hours of operation. The hours of operation for this use will not have an adverse impact on the neighboring properties in the area. And compatibility. Structure, height, size, and location primarily matches the uses found in other HIST properties, as it's only one story. Again, this is in District 7. 30 property owners within 300 feet of the property have been notified by mail of the proposed special exception use. Planning Department received 2 emails in opposition to this case late yesterday afternoon. And of course, y'all remember the whole text amendment process.
All right, Mr. Dudley has a question.
Just have a couple. One, what were the grounds for opposition of the 2 emails? Anything new we didn't cover before?
No, nothing new.
Okay.
And folks who've already opposed it under the text amendment.
Okay, and 2, we had, you had addressed this in emails, but just for the record, the Board of Zoning Appeals has reduced the parking requirement from 109 spaces to 33 spaces?
Yes, there's a lot of moving parts going on down there with several different entities not tied to this. And their parking, they needed to get their building conforming. This property has lost parking over the years. Their front door used to be Heritage Park, and they had a parking lot there, and that was taken away, or the dialysis clinic sold it. I don't know what the particulars there were. And then they cannot get exclusive, not exclusive, but they cannot get committed access to the city's parking lot next door or the Trade Center. And Jim Livingston with the River Valley's here to add any more details y'all might need.
So is it the city's view that 33 spaces is enough for a gym without
Yes.
causing disruption?
Yes, more than enough for this location.
Okay.
All right, any other questions?
Quick question. The 33 spaces, that's the requirement for on-site, right?
Yes, that's their own site.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think when I drove through there, I noticed that there are also designated street parking that's already part of the city. Do we take any of that
There
into consideration?
was.
There was.
They turned it into a bike lane,
Ah, okay.
All right,
so they lost that too.
gotcha. All right, any other questions? All right, will the applicant please come forward to the podium and state your name and address and give us a little bit more about your case here, please.
Again. I'm Joanne Kogel. I live at 732 Second Avenue, which is in the Historic District as well, and own the business 710 Front Avenue, Suite B, which is across at CSG. As Mr. Johnson said, we operate mostly in the mornings. Our biggest class, 5:30 a.m., and which is pretty early. And then we have a noon class, or we have a few morning classes, which are our smallest classes, which consist of about 3 to 5 people. And then our noon class again is anywhere from 3 to 5 people, and then we have an evening class, 5:30 p.m., 6:30 p.m. after River Valley Regional Commission is finished working, and those are our largest classes, which we keep them limited to about 10 people. So, so when, in regards to the parking issue, we've been there now for a year, so this is been a long process, and to date, aside from Christmas in the South, which is on a weekend, we haven't had any parking issues, even if the Trade Center has an event that's going on. You know, our classes during the day, and with River Valley Regional Commission, we operate quite nicely with that other business, as well as our business, as well as the Trade Center using the other 6, however many parking spots that is, 50 parking spots that are in that lot. So, but yeah, we've been there for a year. Most people don't really know that we're there. A lot of people will walk by the door and say, "Oh, there's a gym there," and we're quiet. We come and go, and we service a lot of people that are in the historic district ourselves, and in addition to Fort Benning, so we do have quite a nice little economic impact to Uptown, as well as the historic district. the businesses that are already in the historic district, Minis and 7th Street Provisions and the other businesses.
Okay, all right. Commissioners, do y'all have any questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. All right, is there anyone in the audience like to speak for this case? Please come forward. Please state your name and address, please.
Good morning. My name is Jim Livingston. I'm with the River Valley Regional Commission. We are in the office portion of 710 Front Avenue. I think Will has given you an update of the process we've gone through as a part of this to go through the Board of Zoning Adjustment. We did not realize when we moved into the building 5 years ago that as a regional commission, we have to go through zoning law. There is a state law that requires that. We were not aware of that. We went through that process when we got the variance for the number of parking spaces. The number of parking spaces far exceeds what we would ever have needed, the number of required parking spaces. We have 26 people who work in that building. We were required to have 109 spaces for those 26 people. We operate, and as part of our lease with CrossFit CSG, is we have asked them to schedule their classes to the extent they can on off hours when we're not there. So the parking spaces that they use are parking spaces that we're not using because we're not there. The only time that we ever have parking issues in that parking lot itself with our portion and the city's portion is about 102 spaces, I believe. The only time we ever have an issue is when the Trade Center has a large event. And we are neighbors and we want to be good neighbors. And we work around and try to work with the Trade Center. They give us a schedule when their events are, and so we work in cooperation with them. And we want to work in cooperation with all of our neighbors through the historic district. So we don't have an issue with this. We have never had an issue with this. And I hope that at least as far as this piece is concerned, we look forward to continuing to work and operate as we have. Before CrossFit CSG was there, we had another tenant in that same space. It was Columbus Makes It, and there was never an issue with that, and never any. They operated for 3 years without us knowing that there was an issue under the occurrence here for us to try to work around. So, with that, you all have any questions?
Any questions? Gentlemen? All right. Thank you, sir. All right. Is there anyone else like to speak for? Is there anyone in the audience like to speak against this case? All right. That's it. Commissioners, I open the floor up for a motion or any discussion.
Mr. Chair, as it relates to special exception 1919-0046, 0.55 acres of land located at 710 Front Avenue, currently zoned historic district, proposed usage, health and wellness facility, and with consideration and incorporation of the official report from the staff, I move that we approve the exception.
All right. And we have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. And it's unanimous. Thank you very much. All right. Second case, which is also a special exception, REZN 07196001, a request for special exception of 0.50 acres of land located at 627 2nd Avenue. Current zoning is historic, HIST historic. The proposed use is health and wellness facility. Christopher Wilkes is the applicant. The property is located in Council District 7 also, which is Mimi Woodson. We'll first hear from Mr. Johnson on the staff report for this case, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. EXCP-07-19-6001. Christopher Wilkes has submitted an application for a special exception use. The property is zoned HIST. The site for the proposed health and fitness facility is located at 627 2nd Avenue, which, if you're familiar, is an old school that has several businesses operating out of it. The purpose of special exception use is to allow for the operation of a health and fitness facility. Number one, access. This section of 2nd Avenue is a local road. It will provide adequate free flow movement. This use will be in a multi-tenant building. Traffic and pedestrian safety. Access into and out of the property in question will provide for adequate traffic and pedestrian safety and emergency access. Public facilities, services such as water, utilities, police, and fire protection are adequate. Protection from adverse effects. The properties are surrounded by other HIST uses. Parking, service, and refuse are adequate as stated within the UDO. Noise, light, glare, and odor should be limited due to the nature of the location. Hours of operation. The hours of operation for this use will not have an adverse impact on the neighboring properties in the area. Compatibility. This structure, height, size, and location should match the uses found in other HIST properties, particularly institutional ones. This is District 7. 30 property owners within 300 feet of the property have been notified by mail of the proposed special exception use. Planning Department did not receive any calls or emails regarding this rezoning, this special exception.
All right, any questions, Mr. Dudley?
Yes. How long has this studio been operating?
Art of Yoga, the business
Right, yeah.
itself, has been operating 4 or 5 years.
4 or 5 years, okay.
But Mr. Wilkes is the new owner. And of course, we've had leadership changes in codes and inspections, and that's when it was caught.
Okay, so I'm just still not sure why it was operating before. Did people think it was?
They thought it was an accessory use. And we pulled a lot of the COs in there, and they treated them as accessory uses when they initially got their COs. All the rest of them pretty much still fell into the historic district as far as being allowed. This one did not. But they're not accessory uses. It's a multi-tenant building, but they're standalone businesses.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Yes, sir. Just to make sure I'm clear on what I just heard. So it sounds like you're concluding for us, or at least informing us, that the previous tenant and even the current owner now were operating under the impression that they were in compliance. And
Yes.
they were following the city's lead, so no one did anything intentional.
He did not do anything.
Okay,
no.
I just want to make sure we're clear on
And he's
that.
been working with us through the process.
Well, that's good to hear. Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions, gentlemen? All right, will the applicant come forward to the podium, please? State your name and address for the record, please. We should be getting a healthy downtown.
My name is Christopher Wilkes. The name of the business is Art of Yoga, located at 627 2nd Avenue, Suite 6, Columbus, Georgia, 31901.
Okay, tell us a little bit about what you do, and is it,
It's a yoga studio. It's yoga, meditation, very quiet. Most of the time we're just holding poses like this. We're sitting there like this with our eyes closed. So it's pretty small classes, usually 5 or less people. We have morning classes, and the only evening classes that we have are usually after most of the people in the building have left, so we don't really make too much ruckus. We're just trying to bring some zen to the space, and we serve a lot of people in the historic district. We serve a lot of people in the historic district, as well as military members.
okay. Commissioners, y'all have any questions? Mr. Wilkes?
Well, Mr. Chair, I don't have any questions, but I just want to say you walked up with such calmness and peace about yourself. If that's what yoga's doing, I think we need to go have a class or something, right?
Hey, we started this morning.
Yeah, we can do a special class. Just take 3 deep breaths.
All right. There you go. There we go. Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Any
Thank
other
you.
questions, comments? All right. Thank you, Mr. Wilkes.
Thank you.
Does anyone like to speak for this case? Please come forward at this time. I don't see anybody jumping up. Let's see, anybody want to speak against this case? Please come forward. And everybody's down. All right, Commissioners, we open up the floor for a motion regarding this case.
Mr. Chair.
All right, go ahead, Mr.
As it
Reese.
relates to special exception 071960001.50 acres of land located at 627 2nd Avenue, currently zoned historic district, proposed zone and health and wellness facility, in consideration and incorporation of the official staff report from the consolidated government, I move that we approve this exception.
Sounds like we got a second? Third? Fourth, fifth? All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. All right, it's unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Wilkes. All right. Very good. We'll move on to the zoning cases. We have two this morning. First, the rezoning case is going to be REZN-07-196145. This is a request to rezone 0.82 acres of land located at 2932, 2938, and 2944 Macon Road. Current zoning is residential office, RO. Proposed zoning is NC, neighborhood commercial. Proposed use is commercial, fast food restaurant. Stephen Faulkner is the applicant. This property is located in Council District 3, Bruce Huff. We'll hear from Mr. Johnson regarding the staff report first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. REZN-07-19-6145. This case is inconsistent with the comprehensive plan, planning area D. Current land use designation is single family. Well, no, current land use, the designation single family is obviously is not single family. Future land use designation is single family. It is compatible with existing land uses. The property does not lie within a floodway and floodplain area. Developer will need an approved drainage plan prior to issuance of a site development permit. Property is served by all city services. The average annual daily trips will increase by 1,041 trips if used for commercial use. Level of service will remain at D. This site shall meet the codes and regulations of the Columbus Consolidated Government for commercial usage. There's no school impact. The site shall include a Category C buffer along all property lines bordered by the SFR3 zoning district. The three options under Category C are 20 feet with a certain amount of canopy trees, understory trees, and shrubs, ornamental grasses per 100 linear feet. 10 feet with a certain amount of shrubs, ornamental grasses per 100 linear feet, and a wood fence or masonry wall. Number 3, 30 feet undisturbed natural buffer. This is not within Fort Benning's notification range. This is not a DRI. Surrounding zoning: to the north is SFR2, to the south is SFR3 and RO. To the east is this campus we're on right now, and to the west is RO and neighborhood commercial. 55 property owners within 300 feet of the subject properties were notified of the rezoning request. We did not receive any calls or emails, and there's no additional information. And of course, property we're talking about is Kinetic right here, the old Kinetic, and the two properties next to it.
Yeah, that was the Educators Credit Union too prior to that.
MEA, yeah.
MBA.
And Regions before that.
Regions before that. All right. Any questions of Mr. Johnson and the staff report this morning? Gentlemen? All right. That said, looking for the applicant for this case, please come forward to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Good morning. My name is Stephen Faulkner, 2890 Rice Mine Road, Northeast Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Okay.
I come before you today. We're proposing to rezone from neighborhood to commercial for the purpose of fast food restaurant.
Okay. What type of fast food we're looking at?
I have.
Don't expose that as yet. Okay.
No.
That's free advertising.
Well, the reason I ask is I just want to know what kind of volume you're going to be looking at, and that's the things we want to hear, and how it's going to impact that corner.
Can I bring Mike Gray up here?
Yes, and please state your name and address for the record, sir.
Mike Gray with Calla Companies, 3750 Corporate Woods Drive, Vestavia Hills, Alabama, 35242. We represent a chain of restaurants. This one, a lot of times we don't like to disclose which one it's going to be unless we feel like it's going to be in our favor to disclose it, of course. And this one would be an offset of our Taco Bell down the street that we would be moving to a new location. So we're probably mid-sized on the quick serve restaurant, chain. We're not a Chick-fil-A, and we're also not, just a very, very low volume. But one of the things is we've got so many restaurants that we can kind of predict exactly the amount of traffic that we're going to have, and we've got good usage data from down the street. So, lunchtime, dinner time is our peak app. We don't have a lot of morning traffic.
Okay. Now, will you be tearing down this building and building another, or will you be trying to renovate and utilize?
No, that's correct. We'd be tearing down both buildings, okay. And we would be making it more of the neighborhood style type restaurant with our planning and our buffer zones that are going to be required and those kind of things.
Okay. Now I'm through asking questions. Gentlemen, y'all have any questions? Yes, sir.
That particular corner, there's a lot of traffic. Will the building of this restaurant improve that traffic at that particular area?
Sometimes the traffic is a little bit congested due to how close it is to the intersection itself. So within our planning, we would be actually separating those driveways a little bit further back from the intersection itself. And then we would be correcting the grades as we don't drop down that hill so drastically. So in that, we would improve it as much as we could, just from the proper designs.
Well, what I'm seeing is that there's a stoplight right there.
Correct.
And it's like a T. And I know when that bank was there operating, they had trouble getting in and out. And there were a lot of wrecks right there at that area. If they couldn't get out sometime, people coming out the bank has had problems with the traffic. But I'm sure you're going to get, if this is approved, those two houses on the side of that bank could make a big difference. But I'm not the one.
Yes, sir. Actually, this would be actually 3 properties that would be included in this rezoning because there's a tax assessor's office, I believe, or not a tax assessor, but a tax-type business office next to it. That would be included. Some of the plan within the restaurant design would be to get the traffic, into the site faster, and then that way you get it away from the actual streets themselves. Right now, the Kinetic building is a little close. And so right when you come in, you have to make a movement to park or to negotiate around that site. And so our plan would actually get the entryways a little bit further away so that the first time you have to make a turn or slow down, you're actually inside the property.
Well, I was looking at your site plan here. Were you finished? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So you'll right in off of Winton Road, I'm thinking running east, and right out on Macon Road.
Yes.
And then you'll right out on Rigdon and right in on Rigdon, I'm thinking.
The only one that we have not looked at is the side street traffic patterns and what we'd be allowed to do. Now, that would be through staff and through the actual design process and the review process.
All right. Gentlemen, y'all have any other questions of the applicant? All right, thank you very much. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak for this case? Please come forward at this time. And that said, is there anyone who'd like to speak against this case? Please come forward at this time. All right, and please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Dan Parker, 2505 Hilton Avenue, Columbus, Georgia, 31906. I own the property right across the street from this proposed development, 2939 Macon Road, corner of Irish Drive and Macon Road. And I just have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Are we talking about demolishing the 3 buildings across the street and building a new facility?
That's what I understand them to say.
Okay, all right. Well, I have a minor objection that I think that this is not going to help me rent my house across the street. I think traffic would be an issue. But I was just curious to know if mostly curious to know if these buildings were going to be demolished. And
yes, sir.
You've answered my question. So I'll leave a weak opposition to it.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, Mr. Reed?
No, I was just going to add, maybe on the advertisement, if you put Taco Bell lovers, that this is the perfect place for you. May get someone in there real quick.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else like to speak for or against? And I see none. Commissioners, any further discussion, or are we open up the floor for a motion here?
I do have one more question.
Go ahead.
If we
Yes,
can
sir.
get this gentleman. Sir, you say your objection is very minor because this is a rental property for you. Is there something that they could do as the applicant that would help you get over that small objection?
I can't really think of anything. I mean, that's such a busy street already, and it's not that easy to find a tenant who wants to live right there on that corner. And the only way I can get it rented is to lower the rent. That's a 2,000 square foot house that I'm renting for $750 a month. It ought to be renting for $1,200 a month, but it would never happen. And it maybe, who knows if with this, I really don't know how it might impact it. I don't think it'll be positive.
You know, I don't live too far from you off of the same corridor. And one thing about the current facility, the Kinetic building that was there, it was that it sat so close to the edge of the road, and the driveways were so tight right there at that corner. It contributed to the congestion. So listening to him talk about the usage of those 3 spaces and extending the driveway down, as someone who's personally interested too, because I live close, it made me feel a little better that the traffic would at least not be as bad as it was with Kinetic sometimes, with people getting in and out on lunch breaks and holding up the road and things of that nature. That portion of it, have you been able to see where they're talking about placing the driveways and things of that nature that would help
I
ease the
used to
traffic?
own the building next door to Connecticut. I had a real estate office there.
Okay.
So I'm well familiar with it, and I own the house across the street. Yes, I'm well familiar with it.
Have you seen their plans of what
No.
they're planning?
No, I haven't.
Would you like to see those?
Not really. I
Not really?
can
Okay.
envision it.
Okay, all right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Parker. All right, gentlemen, floor is open for a motion. Go ahead, you've done a great job.
Yes, I'm motion day today.
You're the motion man.
The motion man. As it relate to matter REZN 07196145, a request to rezone .82 acres of land located at 2932, 2938, and 2944 Macon Road, currently zoned as residential office, proposed zoning neighborhood commercial. The proposed uses is commercial fast food restaurant. In consideration of the report and incorporation of the report from the staff, I move that we approve the zoning request.
All right. And we have a second from Coach Davis. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor, raise your right hand. And all opposed, there's no opposition, so it's unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, we have one more case here, REZN-08196157. This is a request for a text amendment to amend the text of the Unified Development Ordinance, UDO, in regards to small wireless facilities, Section 3.2.72.0. And I believe Mr. Johnson will be handling that one, correct?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, you know, you spend a year working on an ordinance, and then the state comes in and hijacks it and then makes you make a few alterations. And essentially what this is you guys passed our small cell ordinance, gosh, 3 years ago maybe.
Yeah.
And just to get in front of it, the state has come back in this last legislative session, and for the most part, what they've come up with mirrored what we already had on the books. There's a couple of slight changes dealing with what you have to fill out at engineering, and probably the most glaring change, and it's really minute, is I think we capped the poles at 40, and they've added 5 feet to it.
So it's 45 now.
So it can go up to 45 if I read it correctly. And that's it.
Well, that's dependent upon where it's located too.
Well, and what these are for
Close
is
to the airport, et cetera,
no, these are for in neighborhoods.
neighborhoods. Okay.
And so far, to my knowledge, we don't have any that have the canisters on them. The ones we have so far just have a little wire poking up above the pole.
Really?
So you ride by, you wonder, why is there just a pole with a wire sticking out of the top of it? So, but they have to be, we were able to keep things like, you know, if you're in Mohina Woods, let's say, and you've got telephone poles, you've got to use wood telephone poles. Or if you're in a newer subdivision that's like got the cast iron or the synthetic, you've got to use that. So it's got to match your existing utilities in the neighborhood.
Okay, Mr. Dudley.
About a year ago, I think, we had a case before us in the old Shrine Club on Edgewood Road in East Lindsay. Would this change have affected that at all?
No, that's a true cell tower. That's a 150-foot cell tower, and they're coming back next month.
Oh, okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions?
So help me understand, this is for cell towers in areas that are not well served by the large towers?
Right.
Yeah.
People are using so much data
Uh-huh.
that it's just wearing out the big cell towers, and the big cell towers are really they're really for, like the Shrine Club wanting to put one next to I-185. It's really for I-185. It's not really for the neighborhood. These are, most of the time, you can't tell that they're even there because they blend. There's one right here on the corner that's in the midst of 3 other telephone poles, and you have no idea it's a small cell tower. But they're the height of a telephone pole.
Okay. And is this somewhat related to the issue that we talked about over in North Columbus with data and internet access? Is this more of a North Columbus problem? Or
No, they had to build their own, radio tower or whatever.
Yeah, that was on
because
Woolridge Road.
Yeah, the cable company would not pay to bring the coaxial or whatever they use or the fiber up to that subdivision. I
Yeah,
can't remember.
right,
the name
right,
of it.
right.
Woolridge Heights.
Right.
Woolridge Heights.
So they had to do it they had to do it themselves. The residents did that.
So there isn't one geographical area that's consistently been impacted. These may be plugged in anywhere where we're seeing excessive data usage, especially around places with, I guess, high employee numbers during the day.
It's
like phone usage. Neighborhoods.
It's neighborhoods. And one example is Heritage Place off Blackman Road. If y'all are familiar, right there at the roundabout, Heritage Place kind of slopes off in a hole. So a big tower is not going to really help with people using these for data and checking Facebook, whatever they're using them for. So that's where they go and deploy these, so that those people have instant access and aren't fighting 2 bars or 1 bar or whatever
Right.
they got going.
You know, I think that's important considering that so many families are transitioning to using cellular service as their main phone service.
Well, and then also now, light bulbs, your doorbell,
Right.
all that stuff's your security cameras, they're
Security
wireless
camera,
now. So
yeah.
they're drawing too. So you got all this stuff drawing, and
Okay.
this small cell
Okay.
technology can be easily deployed, but not have the disruption of a 150, 200-foot tower.
So I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Would it be all over Columbus?
They already are.
They are.
You just don't even
You don't even
notice them.
realize they're there.
The only ones you notice is if you go into a neighborhood like Heritage Place that has underground utilities,
And you see a pole.
and you see a pole, and it's not the light pole or the mailbox. But these things are protected by the FCC, so we can only dictate how they look.
Sounds like they're not so intrusive on the aesthetics of the community
not.
and environment.
I'd say only if you have an underground utility development. Where Heritage Place, the one that I know is there, they could, you could put a light on it, but there's a light already right there next, right there. So,
All right,
but we're regulating them best we can,
there you go.
under federal law.
All right, well, who would like to make a motion on this one?
Why break the trend for the
Go
day, right?
ahead, go ahead.
Let's take it home. As it relates to REZN 08196197, a request for a text amendment to amend the text of the Unified Development Ordinance, UDO, in regards to small wireless facilities, Section 3.2.720.0, and to be in compliance with federal and state law. I move that we approve the request.
We got a second from Coach. We're keeping our trend going here. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed by the same sign, and it's unanimous. Appreciate your attentiveness and attendance this morning, gentlemen. It's been a good meeting. Is there any new business other than the fact we do have a case, we do have cases on September the 4th? So we'll need your presence there, too. Any other new business? Any old
No, sir.
business?
No, sir.
Well, we're adjourned. Thank you.